G'day, Michael here, and welcome to this bonus part of the Game Environment series. In the previous episodes, we looked at how to create a hand-painted style texture in Substance Painter, but say you don't want to use a relatively expensive program such as Substance to do the texturing, or you just want to create a really basic styled texture like low poly. For this bonus tutorial, we'll be looking at how to create a simple texture atlas using flat colors and gradients using Photopea, which is basically like a free online version of Photoshop. Although this technique will work fine in other image editing software like Photoshop. Open up Photopea or equivalent image editing software. We don't need much, just the ability to make boxes of colors and gradients. Click on New Project. The canvas width and height we're going to set to 2048. And let's call this one flat color texture. Then we'll go create. I'm going to select the rectangle tool down here. If you don't have the rectangle tool selected, you can hold left click and just hover over and select rectangle. And I'm going to draw a box on the canvas, so holding shift to create a perfect square. Like that. Now we do want this to be a specific size, so on the right hand side we have these properties here. And I'm going to set the width and height to 256, so keep aspect ratio ticked on. And go to 5.6, hit enter. We will make sure the X and the Y is set to 0 and 0, so the top left hand corner is in the top left of our canvas. With the shape selected, we can click on the fill here. Click on the color. And we're going to choose some colors. I'm going to go for some sandy browns. The first one is going to be fairly light. I have my colors already selected, so I'm just going to type them in. And go OK. We're going to duplicate this shape, so hit Ctrl J, and we want to move this one down on the Y axis, and it's going to be 256. We'll change the color of this one, so click on the fill, go to color, and I'm going to add my color that I've got selected, hit OK. And we're just going to do this another 6 times, so Ctrl J, this one's going to be 512, select the color, Ctrl J again, bring this one down to 768, select the fill, add in our color again, again, bring it down to 1024. Again, this one's 1280. This one will be 1536. And our last one, put that down to 1792. Now the squares don't actually have to be this size, we can get away with them being a lot smaller if we need to, and if we want lots and lots of colors we can really pack them in into a single texture atlas. So I'm just doing it quite big so it's a bit easier to UV map later on, but you can cram this into a much smaller package. Do want to create some gradients though for this setup, so flat colors might get a little bit boring over time. So I'm going to select my first shape again and just hit Ctrl J to duplicate it, and I'm just going to pull it across on the Y axis. This time it's going to be by 256, and I'm going to untick keep aspect ratio, and I'm going to set the height to 512. I'm going to select the fill again. I'm going to select gradient. Now I want this rotated around by 90 degrees. I'm going to click on the gradient color in here. So for the first color, I'm going to select that and click on the white. If we hold down Alt and then left click on the canvas, that'll sample our first color there. We'll click OK. Select the black and the black square, hold down Alt, left click to sample the second color, and go OK. So now I have a gradient between these two colors on this square. We'll duplicate this one again, Control J. We'll move it down on the Y. This one's going to be 512. Again, we'll change those gradients, so let's select that gradient. The first one, we'll select that first color, and then we'll select that second color. Okay. Duplicate it again, Control J. Bring this one down to 1024. Change the fill gradient. To those two colors. Duplicate it one more time. This one going down to 1536. Change the fill. Like so. So I've got a bit of variety to choose from with our colors. We've got a few gradients, a few flat shaded colors. We might want something a bit bigger or a bit more interesting for particular pieces of our environment. So we have these canyon landscape pieces, which we might want a bit of a different gradient for. So we can create some more gradients on our texture atlas here. So I'm going to duplicate this one more time. I'm going to set the Y to 512 and the X to 512 and the Y to 0. And the height is going to be the full size of the canvas, so 2048. And we're going to go back to our gradient editor. And we might want to add a few more colors to our gradient. So the first color I'm going to add, this lighter sandy color. And then I'm going to add this second one in here. I want a third color in the middle, so to add a new color to the gradient, just click below. And you can sort of move this to about the center. And I'm going to give this a different color here. If we want to create a bit of a harder edge, we do have these little black sliders in here. Alternatively, or in combination with that, we can just click to create a new color. And we can use those sliders to sort of pull it in like that. So if we want a bit of a harder edge to the gradient, I'm just going to go okay, I'm happy with that one. So all we need to do is save our file, so you can export this as a file that you can edit later if we go to File and click on Save as PSD. Or if you just want the texture, we can go File, Export As, and just export it as a PNG. I'm going to jump across into Blender now that I have my texture file. And now I need to add my texture to the models and UV map them to the different colors. So first things first, let's set our viewport shading to material preview so we can actually see the colors being applied to them. I'm going to select one of the meshes in here. Let's start off with the wall, and I'm going to create new material inside of the material properties tab. And let's call this one MAT underscore texture atlas brown. I'm going to click on the little yellow circle next to base color and select image texture. And then we'll go open and find where we saved our texture. You'll probably notice that it's not lining up particularly nicely with anything because our bricks have already been UV mapped. We need to redo that. So I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode, and then I'm going to go to my UV editing window. And to get a preview of our texture popping up in here, I can click on this little drop down image. And we'll go texture atlas brown. I've still got a few textures hung over from the last time. And now we've just got to assign each of these brick UVs to a particular color. So let's just grab all this. We can even scale it down. The scale doesn't really matter unless you're over a gradient, but we're just going to be solid color for these bricks. It's going to make it a little bit easier if we just redo this texture map from the front on angle. So I'm just going to press 1. We'll hit Control 1 to look at the back view since the mountains are in the way. And we'll press U and we'll press Project from View. So they are overlapping now, but it doesn't actually matter if these UVs are overlapping. So with it projected from the view of our front-on camera, we can just grab these bricks individually. You can select one or hover over and press L, G for grab, and we just move them over to some of these different colors. So just selecting, pressing L and G to grab. All you've got to make sure is that you're not leaving the bricks sort of hovering over any of the edges and that they're fully on one of the colors. Okay, and now we have all of our bricks assigned to our texture there, all with sort of slightly different variations in color. We can go ahead and apply this same texture to our other elements in the scene, so we can select the arch, press tab to go into edit mode. Again, probably better if we just unwrap all of this again from scratch, so let's select it all, press Ctrl 1 to go to the back view, U and project from view. Let's grab these base pillars to start with. If you've got multiple objects selected, you can press Ctrl L to select all of the connected parts of those multiple objects. And I'm just going to move those across here. Select the smaller pillar elements. Move these across to here. I might actually want to get the insides of them. Make it a bit darker. And I've noticed one thing is that I forgot to apply the texture or the material to this object, so we can't actually see anything at the moment. Let's just drop down the material and choose our texture Atlas Brown. So we can see it being applied now. And let's just move this one across for now. We'll select our pillars. Let's just do them one at a time. Move it across on the X so it's lined up. Select both at the same time and move that onto that gradient. So we're going from our darker to the lighter part. And then I might do the same with these two parts up here and move them to the lighter gradient. It is overlapping, so we do need to sort of squash them together. So let's just go SX to size on the X and just sort of cram it in. Again, it doesn't matter that these UVs are overlapping at all. Grab this top part, put it on the lighter area. So I think that's looking pretty good, except I reckon we can sort of isolate these inset pieces and make them a little bit darker. So those are these ones in here. So we want to get these faces. So pressing 3 to go into face selection. Now you'll see that they're connected at the moment. So to sort of disconnect them, we can press on this button, UV sync selection, and then just move them away. If we toggle it back on, we can see they're sort of broken away from it there. We do need to deselect it again so we can move them individually, but now we've got these sort of parts that we can adjust. So we can make them a slightly sort of darker part in there. You will notice that it hasn't grabbed the side ones in here because they're sort of flat in there. So if we do grab these, like so, and just go to the side view, press 3, and we'll unmap those, project from view, and we'll move it across, try to just vaguely scale it up to the same size so it's sort of matching. So just adding a little bit of contrast to those inner pieces. We could do the same with the bottom part of the pillar as well. So we want this material applied to the rest of the pieces in here, so I'm just going to do a big selection and select everything. And then the final thing to select is one of the meshes that have already been or had the material assigned. So let's select the arch. And this little drop down arrow here in the material settings, if we open that up, we can go copy material to selected. And it's going to copy the material to all the other objects that we have selected. And now we can start applying them to these pieces. So let's just grab all of the bridge, press tab. Oh, we didn't want to grab the arch. Let's try that again. Press tab, A to select everything. We do have a mirror modifier applied to some of the pieces, so it is being copied across, which will work fine for us. We don't need to do anything different between the different sides. Press Control 1 to go into the front view, U, and project from view. Now we just need to go in here and line these up the way we want. Just going to grab this and just scale it on the X, just make it really skinny, that's going to be fine. Sort of fill up that space as much as we want. Grab these pillar pieces. Sort of line these up. Let's have a bit of a closer look to see how it's looking. Let's grab all of these tower parts. Again, we'll kind of vaguely line them up with each other. Grab these bits, Control L. Grab these arches. Just either marquee selecting or hitting Control L to grab the full pieces. So B middle mouse box select to remove a selection. Now I've just got all the little random bricks to assign, which could take a little bit of time. And we should probably mix them up a little bit, just to add some variation to them. So that's the bridge, looking pretty good. Now I've just got to tackle those landscape pieces in the back, so that's what the big gradient is for. Select that, tap to go into edit mode, and we'll need to do a UV projection from the front view again. So U, project from view, and really just scale that in on the X. It's a little bit laggy, it's probably because we've got a subdivision applied to it, so let's just click on the real time to hide it whilst we're working on it. And scale it. I do kind of want the lighter down the bottom and the darker on top, so we could just hit R, hit 180 to rotate it, like so. Now if we want these lines lined up the way we want, we could just grab sort of a section in here and press O for the proportional editing, and then press a G and Y, and we can sort of move it without sort of messing up or overlapping too many, and we can sort of move it like that, so we can sort of get that edge around where the edge of the cliff is. We'll do it with the other ones as well. Project from view, scale it on the X, grab it across, rotate it by 180, scale it on the Y, again we can line up those edges, so let's just sort of grab a bit in here with proportional editing, just kind of move that up, and maybe move the dark a little bit. Okay, and now we have our cliffs done. So that's it for this bonus part of the tutorial, so how to create a very simple, low poly stylized look, but being really efficient by putting all of the colours on a single texture atlas and all of these meshes sharing the same material. If you want to continue on with the rest of the series, the next upcoming parts are going to be getting all of our assets into Unity and making the environment look really nice with some effects and shaders. If you want access to all of the tutorial files, starting notes, you can join the Patron and download all of those. And if you liked the video, leave us a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next part.